Good morning, everyone. It's December 30th, 2020, almost the end of this wretched year, and we are out here on the lower east branch of the Westport River to look at birds. And my friend Paul Champlin is here, and he is going to be doing sort of a seasonal visit to the Westport area to talk about what we can see out here and appreciate what the variety of birds and migrations are in this area. So thank you all for joining us in this bird watching video, and I'm going to introduce Paul.
Thanks, Deborah. Yes, this is one of my favorite places for birding. I live pretty close to here, and so I spend a lot of time kicking around, especially the south end of the river. My background is I graduated from University of Massachusetts in Amherst with a wildlife degree, and went off to Clemson University to get my master's degree in wildlife there, working with birds primarily in both locations. And I've worked at a bunch of different places with birds, and I've been interested in birds since I was probably about 8 years old. And so I've come to know this area. I've been in the Westport area for about 12 years and have come to know the area pretty well. And so I really want to show people what potential there is here for seeing some pretty neat stuff, because there's some spectacular places to bird around here and some pretty spectacular birds to see.
So Paul, tell us a little bit about why you think people are so enamored of snowy owls.
So they're a giant white owl. I mean, beautiful, piercing yellow eyes, active during the daytime, and just they show up, and they can be there for a minute or they can be there for a month, and they're unpredictable, which gives them this aura of mystery. And I mean, that's what owls are all about. They're mystical, and so I think there's this great love of owls out there. And what better one to love than a snowy owl? I mean, they're just great. 25-inch long giant white owl.
So what are they eating when they're down here?
Well, so their food source is one of the main reasons that we see a lot of snowy owls around. And there's a misconception that has been passed generation to generation, where we thought, oh, okay, it's a matter of them starving up north, so they come down here. And it's actually sort of just the opposite. They do eat lemmings up north, for the most part, small rodents that are scurrying around in the tundra. But what we originally thought was, oh, these lemmings crash, their populations crash, and so these poor snowy owls don't have anything to eat. And actually, what's happening is the stars align just perfectly for a boom year in reproduction, and so you end up with in a single nest maybe 7 or 8 young being produced, and every nest having a good crop of snowy owls. They get raised by this wonderful resource that happens to also have a boom year, and then you have all these snowy owls around, and they're going to disperse. And so that's what they do. They disperse down south. So we end up seeing a lot of them move into the area, and so it's one reason that we see them here a lot is that we have a great resource of waterfowl and gulls, which are a large portion of their diet down here. They do eat rodents. They'll eat meadow voles, and they'll eat rats, and they'll eat rabbits, and things like that. But around here, especially around in Westport, what I've noticed is a really good number will hunt gulls and waterfowl. So, like so many birds that we see around this time of year, this is an Arctic nesting species of shorebird that passes through primarily during August, September, October. This one just happens to be hanging out for a good long while here. It shouldn't be here still. Small numbers may may hang out in through November and into December, but here we're getting pretty late. Oh, there he goes. And you can see the
Okay, so should we?
common eiders they have a pretty interesting story. They're one of the few species that, with climate change taking place, instead of extending their range north and retracting from the south, like many species are doing, they're actually extending their range south. They're moving south, and we actually, in the Westport area, we now have them breeding here. You'll walk the beach or come to the shoreline and find a whole trail of little brownish black puffballs trailing the parents.
So is the male the black and white?
The black and white one is
Yeah.
the adult male. You'll see some black and white ones that don't have the striking facial pattern and the green on the nape, on the neck, and those would be the younger males. And so with these eider, you can see they're sort of tooling along, eating away at some of these algae. And there are a couple different species of algae here, but one of them is this a new called giant red algae. It's an invasive species from Asia, so from Japan and Korea, and it has been making its way up the coast, and it's been getting more and more common. And it's interesting because it's been providing food for different species, as many invasive species do. Russian olive, for example. Yeah. You see those bright red berries alongside the road as you drive along, and boy, robins really love them. And so here we have a couple eider chowing down on some invasives, searching around for other things too. I'm sure they're eating some crabs, and there's tons of slipper shells here, so they're So here's another one of our nice little long-tailed ducks. They're very interesting. We usually don't have very large numbers of them, but we've definitely been seeing at least dozens of them here off of the Westport coast this year. That's actually not a very large number. A large number would be hundreds of thousands. You actually can find large rafts of long-tailed ducks into the thousands. Yep. So some of the nicer species passing through Westport are shorebirds, and some of them hang out during the wintertime. The most common ones that you're going to find are Sanderling, which are the bright white ones with the straight tubular bill, and then you have the Dunlin. You may have seen one earlier, but there are a couple over to the rightmost birds with sort of a longer, droopier bill. And they both are Arctic nesters, so they're up in the tundra. And we see them passing by in huge numbers during the fall migration. And then after fall migration, you still have some that are hanging out and they can eke out a living. So with these shorebirds, the Sanderlings will actually fly all the way down to southern South America in this great loop that takes them down the coast, over the ocean, down to South America. They actually do a fairly substantial loop of South America, spend some time down there during the winter time, and then come right back through, back up to the Arctic to breed. So some of these are real globetrotters. They will really go long distances. These are doing just fine hanging out here. This is what they've decided to do instead of going down into some nice warm tropical beaches.
Oh, now you can hear us too.
Gulls are really interesting. They really, if you think about it, they're super successful. They've taken advantage of humans being around, but at the same time, there are some that haven't. They make their living up in the high Arctic, and they don't do a lot of mingling with people. We currently, right in the very near vicinity here, we have a half dozen species, and you don't really think of that in terms of gulls. Oh, it's a seagull. Well, wait a minute. They're the ones with the dark black backs.
Right.
Those are blackback gulls, and they're huge and very successful at making a living out in the open ocean sometimes, or on secluded beaches by not just finding things on the shore, but actually doing, actively fishing. Herring gulls, well, that's your typical seagull. This is our seagull here, herring gull. And herring gulls, I mean, we know how successful they are. They're everywhere, so it seems.
Stealing your sandwich out of your hand on the beach.
But at the same time, you can find them out in the ocean making a living all on their own. And then we have another species that's common, ring-billed gull, and they've been more and more common through the years along the coast here. And then there's another species, lesser blackback gull, which is here. I don't see one here, but they're relatively rare, becoming more common through time as their Greenland breeding colonies increase. And then there are some other species like Glaucus gull. There's a Glaucus gull which looks like a herring gull but doesn't have the black wingtips, and they're around. There's been one or two of those around. And then there's a smaller version of that called Iceland gull, which also has completely white wings, and there's one of those hanging around. So there are many species of gulls around, and they all do their own things in different ways that allows them to coexist. All right, so we have some waterfowl out here. There's a common golden eye. Actually, you can see it's a golden eye with two black scoters behind it. And so these are, it just dove. And then scanning to the left, there's more black scoters. Let's see, there's another common golden eye. Oh, and there's a little bufflehead in the foreground. Yeah, some nice sea ducks and bay ducks. This is one of the places people go to see harlequin duck. Satch is renowned for harlequin. It's endangered in every province, every eastern province of Canada where it breeds.
So thank you all for looking at this film about winter birding in Westport, and I hope you'll plan to join us again. We'll be making another excursion with Paul in the spring. We plan to do these every few months so that you can see what an enormous variety of species there are and come to appreciate how much diversity we have that we can enjoy. So thank you, Paul, for coming out with us today.
So thank you very much, Deborah, for this great opportunity, and I look forward to future adventures.